Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany Benitez. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. Welcome, Women in Tech Trailblazers. We are super excited to be back with you today with another episode. I know I say this a lot, but I'm actually not kidding. We mostly handpick every single guest that we have on here, and it's people and it's leaders. And you guys know when I say leaders, like most of them are leaders in their jobs, but they're not selected because of their title. They're selected by how they carry themselves, how they move communities. And so I have an incredible guest I want to share with you today. The topic, though, before I introduce her, the topic is one that is near and dear to my heart. She was so passionate about it. And I'm like, yes, why have we never talked about this before? But in our careers, we always think about this like ladder, like we move our way up the ladder, and we're like on this journey to, I don't know, whatever the top is, which we're still looking for something else. But the reality is it's more of a jungle gym. It's more of a and so you're going to hear us talk in depth about some of that today. So career jungle gyms versus career ladders. And without further ado, I want to introduce Kim Lanphear with you guys. She is the CEO of Apparo. If you are not familiar, Apparo is a nonprofit that connects the Charlotte area nonprofits with technology expertise to amplify their impact. She's a recognized leader in change management and cultural transformation. She's guided Apparo to deliver nearly a 10-to-1 average on donor investments. That's huge in the nonprofit world, impacting over 1,200 nonprofits through partnerships with 250 companies. So really bringing our companies back to the nonprofit sector and really creating impact there. She's got more than 25 years of experience in international business, strategy, marketing, and nonprofit leadership. She brings a diverse perspective shaped by past leadership roles at Citibank and in the arts sector. Kim is also a recipient of Charlotte's Most Admired CEO and Most Influential Women Awards and holds degrees from Duke University, go Duke, and Southern Methodist University. Yeah. Kim, I'm a Duke fan. My husband's Carolina, so we're a house divided. Kim, in her time at Apparo, she has served Apparo for 16 years, guys, and she's been leading the organization for the past 13, really recognizing that nonprofits desperately need support to overcome their technology and business process challenges, but simply they can't afford them. You think about nonprofits, and she's led the transition of Apparo from a fee-for-service model to the pro bono nonprofit it is today. She started it from the ground up, building a team of passionate business experts who understood the intersection of technology and transformation. I do want to hit on some key highlights on what's been done over these past 13 years, because there's been tremendous impact. So I do want to hit on a few of these points and then we'll jump in. Their annual philanthropic giving funding has grown since 2012 from $312,000 to $950,000. That is a 204% increase. So when we talk about value and impact, this is data driven, okay? Their annual networking sponsorship has grown from $450,000 to $810,000. So from a math folks, that's an 80% increase. And their annual value delivered in a fiscal year to the community, which this is what matters, guys, went from $1.25 million to $5 million, which is a 300% increase. And they've grown from serving 47 nonprofits annually to providing support over 500 annually. They've stood up over 3 pillars of service, expanded to incorporate those pillars into key digital area core topics, cybersecurity, data, and AI. And they've successfully built 2 cohorts. Okay, I'm excited about these. I did get to participate in one that has deep and broad operational transformative impact, and one that encompasses many iterations, AI, again, cybersecurity and data foundation tech in levels 101 and 201. And again, they are providing fast and broad capacity improvements for multiple nonprofits at a time. That was one heck of a bio, but I could not skip. I love data. And when we talk about impact, right, we really need to understand what those data points are, especially when you're leading that entire organization. And so Apparo has become near and dear to my heart. It was when I lived in Charlotte last time, didn't have as much capacity to volunteer in the ways that I am able to today. So I want to say a huge thank you before we fully jump in for what your organization and you as a human, because you've been leading this with an incredible leadership team, are doing for our community. So thank you so much, Kim.
Well, thank you. My goodness gracious. Thank you. It's been an honor.
Yeah. So, okay, we've talked about this before, but our podcast, it's really about authenticity. And I know that's a buzzword that we throw around a lot. And so, what I always really like to ask people and different leaders that we have on this call is that I think we all have a different perspective of what authenticity means. And I don't think there's really a right or a wrong, but it's important for all of us, but especially us as women, to kind of hear from different leaders what authenticity means to you. So, would you share with us what that means to you?
Absolutely. I think it starts with integrity and being able to be transparent. And within the concept of transparency is speaking truth to power, being able to be comfortable in the things that you have to share that may not be wins, and being able to understand how what may be perceived as a failure or a missed target is an opportunity for a pivot, is an opportunity for a learning. So that whole, fail forward kind of concept. So to me, that's what the authenticity is about. It's about integrity and it's about transparency, and I guess fundamentally building trust through that. When you show that you're willing to do those things, that you're willing to be vulnerable, you build trust, and that's how you become an authentic leader, I think.
I really love that perspective on just failing forward. I think that's a topic that, and words that not many people use. Like, failure is just something we're taught, like, you don't do it, you don't do it, you don't do it. But the reality is, like, we don't succeed until we've failed, right? The goal
We're
is to,
not
like,
growing if we're
fail.
not
Yeah,
failing.
like,
Yeah,
fail, get
yeah,
up, figure out what went wrong, don't repeat, and keep it moving. So I
right.
love that from your perspective. Okay, so I read the bio, you've had such an incredible journey inside and outside of Apparo with regards to your career. As we talk about, like, what this career jungle gym versus career ladder, like, what does that actually mean to you when we talk about that? And then how, in your personal career journey, how did you pursue some of that?
Yeah. I just think it's such an important topic, Tiffany. It's such an important topic because we don't think about it. We get so caught in the climbing up that we don't realize that a lot of the opportunities happen in the climbing around. The personal growth, the intellectual growth happens when you're not always looking up at somebody above you, but that you're open to what's happening around you. And finding that ability to be open to things that aren't up is hard because it's so ingrained in us, that competitive. I think as Americans, we're so competitive, we've all got to be the best that we can be, and the best feels like up, but it's not
Yes.
always up. Sometimes the best is sideways because of who you're working with, the work that you're doing. Maybe up, would be really intensely unpleasant with unpleasant people. And why would I want to do that? Let's go over here for a while and do this and learn something with some really great people and some really great projects, and something new that I've never done, or it's tangential to what I'm already doing. And then suddenly there's another up that comes along, or a diagonal up that takes you someplace else. And it's that journey around the jungle gym that I think is so, it's important, particularly for young people, to know it because there's no shame in it. And sometimes I think, you think of Brene Brown, who's always, how important it is not to have shame. Shame is like one of those real, don't be ashamed of your shame, because you just, it holds you still. And so I sometimes think we have shame about not going up. And then that we lose incredible opportunities then. And in my life, I've been so fortunate because the opportunities that have come to me have kind of just materialized through networks. All of us, I think so many of them happen as you're talking to someone and someone says, well, yeah, why don't you go do that? Okay, I'll do that. And that's your next career move. And things have happened to me. Like I've said, I started in financial management. I was a director of marketing, was my first job out of graduate school of a regional savings and loan. And I took it because I wanted to do corporate philanthropy work. And I believed it should come through the marketing arm because that's where you get the wins for everybody. If you're thinking about what can I get out of this as well as give to you, then you really create a long-term relationship. It's this partnership that develops, not just a gift. And so I did that through that marketing department, and then moved into a product management role, which is running a small business within a larger business at Citibank, domestically and internationally. And then I got recruited to run theater, a professional theater, which had been in that educational background, and I had been in amateur theater. And so did that for a while. And these things evolved, they happened, for a variety of reasons, but each one I learned so much from, met interesting people, sometimes frightening people, but interesting, along the way. And you say, that's no more for that. I'll move on over here. And so the being open to that, I hope people will take that away from today.
I really love that, because I think we can sit in here and talk about the concept, right, of this jungle gym. But I think listening to you talk about as a CEO, and as a CEO for multiple years on years, and sorry, not sorry, but a female CEO. Okay. So our numbers get lower and lower the higher we go.
They
So
do.
let's not, take away from that. But it's like you tied back, you always, even where you started, you knew who you wanted to be and what you wanted to do from an impact perspective. And you tried to find different ways to do that. And then I love how, like, you didn't even, okay, fine. You started in corporate and you did lots of great things in corporate. And then you went to like run a theater. And I feel like business is business. We've got different industries.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
But you take those skill sets with you, but you have pursued passion too. And some of those moves around the ladder, like, how do you actually move with purpose if you don't know who you are and what you care about and what you're after?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, that was really cool just to kind of hear, because again, your bio is there and it's great, but like just knowing like education, right, and then jumping into corporate, and then truly caring about like that nonprofit sector, and even doing that in a corporate marketing way, and then finally making your way on over, it's an incredible story that is super inspirational for sure. Okay.
When you and I talked earlier, we talked about a young woman who's an incredible growing leader, who I think is just, I'm going to see as a superstar someday. And she shared on her social media accounts that she was reflecting on how she began her career and what she wanted. And I think so many times, particularly, well, anybody young in career and older in career, more seasoned in career, I want to do this. That's what I want to do. And her guidance was, don't think so much about the this, but think about, what can I be competent at? What can I be challenged by? And if I like it as I'm being challenged and I'm competent in it, I'm going to grow and I'm going to become good at it, and I'm going to want to learn more, and then I'm going to become better at it. But it all happens from this willingness to be curious and willingness to want to learn. And so you lean into something, and if you're reasonably good at it, you're going to learn more about it, and you're going to get better, and you're going to grow, and it's this cycle. And I think would take so much pressure off people thinking about what's next on the rung of the ladder, if they think about, what can I do and explore.
Love that. I mean, okay, so actually, I think this is also a good example tying back to what you're talking about. So if you think about like CIO or CTO role, and I'm going to use this particular one, it could be any, but mostly we're talking to either tech audience in some way, shape, or form, or people that desire to make that path. If your goal is to ever be a CIO or CTO, niching yourself in one particular area is actually the worst thing you can do. Like CIOs and CTOs have a broad level of experience across all of the technology roles.
Absolutely.
And then they have really incredible teams that delve deeper to get what they need to do. And so fine, even if your goal, if that's your goal, like if it's C-suite, if it's CIO, if it's CTO, you actually can't get to that without the jungle gym. Like you have to go to a lot of those lateral roles and truly understand them to be able to lead effectively at the top. So,
or you may not be as prepared to lead at the top when that becomes an opportunity, if you haven't exposed yourself to other kinds of thoughts and opportunities.
I also think our seasons change a lot, right? So as women, and this isn't for women, this is humans in general, but like our seasons change. And so like what we care about, like what I cared about 5 years ago is very different than what I care about today. So if I was just focused on like this ladder, like I'm not giving myself like the opportunity to figure out, hey, what do I actually care about now? And, my kids I'm almost an empty nester, and that looks very different for what my goals might look like versus in my career 5 or 10 years ago. And so I do think it's also important for us to evaluate our season, make sure that whatever moves, like your plan may have been this other role, but this season may need you to even take a step back or to take a lateral move. And I think we become super frustrated when we're only looking up. Like we just keep looking up, and then we're frustrated because you can't control always all of these life things and changes in our seasons. And so we want to know why we're so frustrated. Well, maybe it's because we're too focused on the ladder instead of like what's actually what we need right now.
I mean, what is a successful life in any path, whether it's a technology career path or any, it's about experiences. It's about the people. And so who are you working with? Who are influencing you in your work environment? And if you don't go broadly, you're really narrowing who can help you grow. And so yeah, I'm a big jungle gym believer.
I love it. Okay, I do want to get into like again, like topic is we're women in tech, really trying to create
Right.
space for others, and that's near and dear to my heart. So the reality is there's 28% of us nationally, like never going to stop sharing numbers because data is important. But the reality is we're in lots of rooms where we're the only woman. And so throughout
Mhm.
your career, I mean, in tech and outside of tech, because I don't think it's just tech, but have you encountered like bias of any in any forms? And I'm not saying you have to like sit here and go into like specific examples, but like,
Hmm.
how do you navigate that? Like, how do you navigate? I mean, even you're a female CEO in the tech space. There's not a lot of us. So like, how do you navigate in those spaces? And like, are there intentional things that you do to kind of take your experiences and kind of create more space for others? Before we jump back in, a quick thank you to Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas for being part of this journey. We cannot thank them enough. They continue to create space for women to grow, connect, and lead in tech. Let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah. So one of the things in this role, so typically in a nonprofit role, you're not typically, this is changing, but back when I started this 13 years ago, you were an executive director. And what I discovered was people in the corporate world didn't know what that meant. It had a very different meaning. And so I really lobbied my board to say, you need to change my title to CEO because the CIOs won't talk to me unless they understand that I'm running a business, that I'm on that level of engagement with them. And so that helped a lot, advocating for that title adjustment for that reason, not because I wanted it. I didn't really care, but it's about being able to be in the room and seen as a peer. So I think that's something for women to consider. And it's a reasonable thing to ask. In I wasn't asking actually for a salary increase at all. That wasn't the point at all. I just needed the title to open the door. And so titles can matter. And I've always been confident. I don't know why that is. And that's a hard thing to say, be confident, because some people really struggle with that. I have not experienced, I've just been blessed to have experienced much in the way of being a problem when I'm the only woman in the room. I've found that men have been open to hearing, and I'm also, not very shy about, forwarding right through. So coming in, who was it I was just listening to? Someone was just making a speech the other day talking about how to gain influence, and the two things were competency. Yeah, you may not be as wealthy or as titled as the person that you want to engage with. So you can't fight or battle on that level. And you may not have the depth of expertise. So maybe you can't battle on that level, but you can battle on competency. So come into the room incredibly competent, come in knowledgeable, well researched. And then the other item was know that you are a peer within your own space. So if you're looking at someone who's intimidating, more recognized, whatever than you may never be that. You may never be as wealthy of them. You may never be connected to them, to whatever. But in your sphere of work and expertise, you are a peer. So I love this guidance. So be the peer. Come in as the peer, and you will be perceived as the peer. If you come in as, well, if I can, I'd like to say, or, just come in as a peer in the room. Find the way to just gird your loins and come in as a peer, and they will then treat you as a peer. If you're not questioning yourself, it's less likely that they will.
I love that. And honestly, I've lived that out. So in one of my previous roles, I was, well, in a lot of roles, I'm the only female leader. But the reality is, like, I had to go into a room of not only tech leaders, but of business leaders. And I was the
Mhm.
only female. And then the reality is, like, I'm blonde. Okay. So then I have this other thing that's there of like, okay, great. Here we go. Like,
All the
you
blonde
just add
jokes.
the layers. But you're right. Like, you know what? You can think whatever you want. I'm not going to entertain that. I'm going to show up. I'm going to know exactly who's in this room, exactly what we're after. I'm going to know exactly what you need out of this, and I'm going to show up and I'm going to deliver. You can think whatever you want. And the respect is kind of gained along the way. And I mean, listen, you can like it or not, but it is the reality, right? So I always say, like, what can you control? You can't control people's perceptions or even, what they're thinking or what they're, saying to others. But what you can control is showing up and building your brand and coming in educated, coming in competent. Those are things that can't be argued with. And I think you build some of that respect and trust along the way. So I totally agree with that. Okay, we talked a little bit about this like career ladder, jungle gym. I really love how we've navigated through it. I'm just curious. I know we don't have like the answers for everyone, but from your perspective, like why do you think a lot of us are really chasing the ladder so hard? Like, and do you think if we as women truly, like women, sat back and truly understood this jungle gym and that this jungle gym is the reality for all of us? So fine, you're after the ladder, but the ladder actually doesn't exist, right? There is no rung. Do you think we would somehow embrace it and end up in a better place?
Interesting question. I think we would, because the ladder is inherently in the ladder is frustration. And only so many can climb the ladder. Only so many can go up behind the other one. And so as a result, it's a frustration in and of itself, which leads to self-doubt, which leads to the things that are detrimental to happiness. So if we can not be so focused on the rung up, but what's next? And who knows what's next? So I don't know what next is, but next is next. And what's something that's interesting to me? Focus on what's interesting to you and do that next thing. Just do that and become confident there and learn and grow as a person and meet new people and expand your network. And then what's next? I think that would be a lot happier if we could understand that that's an okay journey. It's not just okay, it's likely. It's what's going to happen anyway for most of us. And it's a really good journey. There's a lot of really good work to be done around that jungle gym and in all areas of the links. There's all kinds of really great work and great people to work with. And it's probably money and glory, right? Because the perception is if you're going up, you're earning more money. And that's true. I mean, the bands in corporate America, when you step up a band, you get more money. And if you go laterally, you don't. And so, there is that, and that's real. That's tangible. I want more money. So that is a real thing. And I think it comes with the territory. Maybe more slowly, but it comes.
I do agree. I mean, the reality is, like you said, we're all on the jungle gym. And so I think the quicker we can get on board with it is the reality, the less frustration we have. The frustration is when we have all these expectations that are unmet. But the reality is it was never the reality. I think we're fed a lot. We're fed a lot by society, like there were these like norms and things that are pressed into us of like, this is what success looks like. This is what you should do. This is how you climb. And again, I think our previous generations with like great intention, we all only know what we were taught from, the generation before. But I do think we have like, as we continue to learn, because that's what we do, we learn different things, generation after generation, taking those learnings and like shifting our mindset, because the reality is it all goes back to your mindset. Like,
it does.
Are you prepared for the reality, which is the ladder, which is okay. Like or not the ladder, the jungle gym. The jungle gym is what it is. Like, why not be okay with it and maybe focus on some of the values out of it instead? The other thing
it's more fun than the ladder.
It is.
Who wants to climb a ladder all day? It's more fun. You get to go around, talk to other people,
Yeah, like rung after rung. No one feels frustration. Like that is a lot. And then only one person how many people can be on the jungle gym at once? Lots of people. You're like all over the place. On the ladder, we're like only one person, and then someone's behind you. And if they're moving slow, you move slow. And when I think about community and locking arms and the whole like better together, like we're on the jungle gym. Like, let's embrace it and just be wildly successful at that.
I think the jungle gym is really a great analogy too for being a servant leader. And I know that can kind of get like, but when I look at the technology community, and I think about them as a whole, they are the most service-oriented in the company, because intrinsic in the career of a technology person is, I'm doing this job to make other departments, other people more successful, more effective, more efficient, reduce costs, whatever it is that the technology is doing, it is a service. And as I've worked with people in technology, I've seen that correlation. They're the most servant oriented because their job calls for that. So what better place to put a jungle gym than a place where community matters and service matters and all that kind of stuff instead of rung on top of anything. I just think that works.
Yeah. I mean, we're enablers, right?
Yes.
Even if you go get like a formal definition of what technology is and what it does, like we're enablers for the business to be able to deliver, right? And so that in itself is service, right? It's essentially like who we are and the language we speak. Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. I'm just watching people continuously like give back and share information. And I don't know, I've been in tech for 23 years and it's just been a breath of fresh air for me. I do also think that like what company you're at is also really important. I think we go into roles in companies thinking like, okay, I'm going for this interview. Let me have all my stuff together. Let me, but the reality is like, you're also interviewing that company. And this does matter because your jungle gym, right? Or I don't know if you're still focused on the ladder, like either way, you need to be a good mesh with that company and you need to really understand what that culture is. How can women really focus on putting themselves in companies and environments where there is alignment with their value? And how does this relate back to the incredible journey of whatever success looks like for them?
I think it's asking the question up front. I think you're making such an important point, Tiffany, because again, happiness, fulfillment in life is about the people you work with and therefore the culture and the company that you're working in. So if you can somehow, keep yourself from saying yes, because it looks like a great job, and give yourself the time to say, what are the people valuing? Ask that. What are the values of your team? Have you identified what they are? And usually they'll say 4 or 5. If there's 10, it's like, okay, that's a whole lot. But ask them, what the questions like, what of those 5 values, what's the most important to you? What do you in your work, what do you value most in those 4? And how does that manifest in your daily work? What do you think the team leans toward? Is there one that people scoff at? And then you find out, do they really hold these values true? Are they just words on a paper to say they, check that box on a strategy plan? I think asking those kinds of questions as an employer who values above all what our culture is, because it is what keeps people motivated. I have a team who are giving 150% every day, and I don't question that, but it's because we are intentional about our culture. We really mean something to one another as coworkers. We don't have to be best friends, but as coworkers, we have these values that we really want to hold true to one another. And sometimes it takes messy work to hold those values. But when somebody who's being interviewed by me asks me about those, and we have a conversation about them, I'm like, oh, now I'm talking to somebody who really wants to be part of this kind of work and this culture work on top of the work that they have to do as an employee. And then I'm really interested in them. And I think it can't hurt you to ask those questions, because if they don't care, you're kind of wasting my time asking those questions, then you really don't want to work there. You really, really don't. Even if it's a great job, you really don't. I mean, if you're willing to say, I'm going to sacrifice my soul for a couple of years while I do this great job, and because I'm going to love the job, but I'm going to hate the company, then okay, if you're going in with open eyes, but I wouldn't ever recommend it. Why would you ever want to do that to yourself? Why sell your soul to the devil?
Why would you eat scraps when there's a buffet like right beside you? Okay, I'm not a great fan of like buffet, but I'm just like in concept, right? Like metaphorically, like, yeah, I don't know. And again, maybe that's my season of just being further along in my career. Like what I will settle for is really nothing. Right. Like it's, I really am intentional about that. So we are coming up on my least favorite time of every episode, because I could probably sit here and talk to you all day. It's just incredible. You have a ton of you have so much wisdom, not only as a woman, not only as a leader, not only in the nonprofit space and the technology space. I don't know. There's just so much wisdom there. And I think it's really important for us to continue to share this back to all of the generations, with us and behind us. And so one final question that I ask every single person this, because I think it is so, so important. So it's a 2-part question.
Okay.
Number 1, what legacy do you hope to leave as a woman leader? And then the second part is, if you could leave one piece of advice for our listeners, what would that be?
It goes back to people for me. So, I'm fortunate that I really believe in the mission that we're doing to help enable nonprofits through technology. And that's really wonderful. And I hope that that work will continue and it will manifest as it will manifest. But what brings me the most joy is when I see people who have connected through the work that we do create real connections. There's a group of young women who worked for our company over the early years, and I see them every once in a while post on Facebook, and they're together. And I watch them go to one another's weddings, and I watch them do whatever, and they'll all be, there's a group shot, and I think, Apparo brought them together. There's a group of women who were more seasoned in their careers who I also see do that. And that to me is the legacy of more than anything, is watching that people have been brought together by the work that we've created, whatever that work is, and that we've created community. And that is to me a legacy. That picture on social media is like every time I see it, I'm like, oh, we did something good. And advice, don't be so hard on yourself. Allow yourself to have moments of moving sideways and not judge yourself, and lean into it and enjoy it. There's always going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and it's a journey. People say that, but it really, really is. And making yourself not like moments of the journey because they're not the right spot or the direction or the whatever is just fruitless. Just enjoy it. This too shall pass.
Yes.
And the next thing will come along.
I love it so much. Thank you so much. I know your schedule is incredibly busy, so I am so grateful for your time. Our audience is so grateful for your time, for coming on and really just kind of sharing some of your wisdom and insights with us. So again, much gratitude to our audience.
Tiffany, thank you for putting together this podcast. I think it's so amazing that you're bringing together women leaders to share with other leaders and around technology, and you have an incredibly busy schedule. So to take your time out to orchestrate this and make it happen, what a gift you're giving. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my heart. Community and just us creating space for each other is really my heart and what I'm after. So thank you so much for that. Guys, Kim's LinkedIn will come across the end of the episode as usual. Please go out and follow her. Just look at I read numbers, I read stats, but seeing it is something completely different. Go out and follow Apparo. I will tell you, it doesn't matter where you sit. There's an opportunity to virtually plug in, to volunteer, to give back to the community. Our nonprofits really need what we have from a tech perspective. And so go out and follow Apparo, go out and follow Kim. And to each and every one of you, thank you for listening in. This doesn't happen. I don't care if only one person listens and this episode changes their life. That's what matters to me. So just thank you for your time. Continue liking, subscribing, and tuning in. We have some incredible episodes to follow. So thank you so much. And until we meet again.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for being here. If something resonated with you, please share this episode with your friends, your colleagues, or anyone you know that needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe to catch what's next. We'll be back soon with more real stories and honest conversations. Until then, keep showing up and let's keep making space at the table.